Hello everyone, welcome back to the Peace, Love, Hormones podcast. I'm your host, Maddie Miles, and today we are going to be talking about progesterone, what progesterone is, its health benefits, signs of low progesterone, and how to increase healthy progesterone levels to support the health of your overall menstrual ovulatory cycle and your overall mind and body and reproductive health and functioning. Before we get into today's topic and episode itself, I like to do a little introductory portion and talk about updates in my life, updates for Peace, Love, Hormones, and to read one of your reviews on my website. So I have 3 tinctures: Soothe for hormone health, Bitters for liver health, gut health, and overall digestive health, and then Sleepy for sleep and nervous system. So I always like to read one review because, number one, I love reading the reviews myself, and also I want to give the lovely women who are spending the time and energy writing reviews some spotlight and some love. And third, so that it can help other people. If you relate to this, then maybe it's helpful for you to listen to other women's experiences with herbal medicine, and maybe it's not. Please just take whatever resonates and leave what doesn't. So some updates for Peace, Love, Hormones is many of y'all have been asking when I'm releasing my cramp formula. I will be releasing my herbal tincture for cramp support that you can reach to in times of cramps and discomfort sometime early summer, maybe by the end of spring, but good stuff takes time. So usually a formula takes me a little bit over a year. So the end of spring would put us at a year. So yeah, keep a lookout for end of spring, early summertime. And if you're not subscribed to Peace, Love, Hormones text and emails, you can subscribe on our website. If you're already a Peace, Love, Hormones fan and you take Soothe or Bitters or Sleepy, feel free to sign up for our referral program as well. That's very exciting, and you get to give your community and your loved ones a little discount on their first order, and then you get to make money, cash back on that as well. So we don't run advertisements, at least not right now. There's nothing wrong with it. Some brands rely heavily on paid advertisements, and I would rather do organic growth because that's how we've grown for the last 2+ years of the business since the start of Peace, Love, Hormones. Peace, Love, Hormones started as the podcast first, but since the start of my herbal tinctures and actually being available to you all, it's all been organic growth. So I want to keep it that way, at least for the foreseeable future. Okay, so that's a major Peace, Love, Hormones update. And also I've been spending so much time and energy with me and my website developer and just my whole entire team on website design and functionality. So if you haven't checked it out in a while, or maybe you've never checked it out, please go over there because we've worked so hard on it and it's beautiful and I love it. And then personally, so I'm going to have Braxton, actually, my boyfriend, on my podcast, and that will be released sometime towards the end of February. All of y'all have been asking us questions, everything from like very personal questions, like if we have the desire to get married and when we imagine that would be, do we want children, to more menstrual cycle and hormone focused and science focused of like, number one, how men optimize their cycles and their hormones, because men don't have our menstrual cycle, but they do have, they really cycle closely with their circadian rhythm when it comes to their testosterone. So they have this nice reset every 24 hours, whereas women, we have the full cycle takes anywhere from like 24 to 30 or so days, known as our menstrual ovulatory cycle, also known as the infradian rhythm, which is just another name. It's the more scientific name for the internal biological rhythm that our menstrual cycle is. So people have been asking us about that. People have been asking about how their partners, and in this case, how Braxton supports me with my hormones and my cycles and tracking my cycle with me, and how we use that to positively impact our relationship. So we talk about all of that, and that episode will be released soon. So you can also subscribe, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, or you're watching this on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so you always get updates when I release something, which is once a week, pretty much every single Wednesday. Sometimes it may be on a Thursday here or there because I'm human, but usually it'll be on Wednesdays. Also, Braxton and I, along with Braxton's brother and my brother, so family biz, have been working really hard behind the scenes for a while now on a mastic chewing gum company, because gum that's available everywhere, mainstream, is plastic and full of sugars or sugar alcohols and just these nasty non-natural ingredients that are not good for our overall health and well-being, including our hormone health. And there are much healthier ways to receive that. Number one, just that chew. Some people just like to be chewing on something, but to boost your oral health and your oral hygiene and freshen your breath and to strengthen your jaw as well. So it's mastic chewing gum, and that will be coming to full life and full market here in the next few months, and I'm so excited for it. Obviously, it falls under herbalism as well, which is why I'm highly involved in this. So definitely tune into Braxton and I's episode, because we will dedicate some good time to talking about that. And okay, now let's read a Bitters review. I feel like I always read Soothe reviews, and that's unfair to my other children, Bitters and Sleepy. So we're going to read the most... Oh gosh, these are all so good, but we're going to read the most review, and it's from Rory, and she wrote, Bitters, hands down the best herbal supplement for digestive health. I bring it with me everywhere, literally. A must-have in your natural pharmacy. Thank you, Rory. That is so beautiful. I'm going to read the one below it as well, just because I have some catching up to do on Bitters. So the one below it is from a woman named Andrea. And she wrote, Bitters, this has truly made all of the difference when it comes to digestion. I don't feel prematurely full and bloated, and I just have more energy after I eat. Cannot live without. It is pretty bitter, but you get used to it. It is very bitter. It's called Bitters, and that's the good part. That's the medicine right there, the medicinal property. So thank you, Rory and Andrea, for writing those lovely reviews. If you've tried Bitters or Sleepy or Soothe and have yet to write a review and you want to, no pressure, of course. I don't pressure anyone to do anything, but if you want to, go over to peacelovehormones.com and write your review. I would love to read it. And thank you so much. Okay, now let's transition into today's topic, which is all about the lovely hormone progesterone. I have been receiving a lot of DMs, as well as women asking within the Peace Love Hormones Instagram channel how to boost their levels of progesterone and also extend the duration of their luteal phase, because many women actually struggle with having healthy progesterone levels, and or they're struggling with missed ovulation, like completely missed ovulation or delayed ovulation, or really high levels of estrogen, particularly estradiol. So I want to talk about this today and dedicate a podcast/YouTube video to this topic. So we're going to talk about signs of low progesterone. We're going to talk about the common causes of low progesterone, and ultimately how to actually boost those levels of progesterone and therefore have a wonderful, lovely, symptom-free cycle. So progesterone is a huge part of the equation. Usually estrogen gets all of the spotlight and the fame. So we're going to give progesterone some love in today's episode. So I want to go over 3 common signs of low progesterone in the luteal phase. So number 1 would be just a short luteal phase. If your luteal phase is anything shorter than 10 days, this is a sign of low progesterone. Healthy progesterone levels extend our luteal phase into the healthy range, which is about 10 to 14 days. Some people say 11 to 14 days, but 10 to 14 days. Anything less than 10 days, you have low progesterone. Anything over 14 days, you very well may be pregnant, or you just didn't ovulate at all and you're mistakenly thinking that you're in your luteal phase. Without digressing, that was number 1. Number 2 would be spotting within the luteal phase is a sure sign of low progesterone. And number 3 would be low basal body temperature readings. So if you take your BBT every single day and you see your reading is lower, this is definitely a sign of low progesterone, because as progesterone levels rise, so does our internal basal body temperature as well. So lower levels correlated to lower progesterone. Also could be due to thyroid issues. Definitely a huge factor as well, but doesn't necessarily mean that you have a struggling thyroid. It could also just be your progesterone levels are a little bit low. And struggling to produce progesterone is super unfortunate because there are so many health benefits to progesterone, such as lightening periods, reducing inflammation, reducing cramps, regulating our immune function, and supporting the health of our thyroid, our brain, our bones, and our breast. And progesterone itself, as the term, refers only to the hormone made by the corpus luteum, which is a temporary endocrine gland that develops right after ovulation, stays during the entire duration of our luteal phase, and then dissolves. And the corpus luteum is created from that ruptured follicle. Remember, during ovulation, we talked about this 1 or 2 episodes ago on the Peace Love Hormones podcast, exactly what ovulation is, how it happens, the duration of it, why it's important. So if you haven't listened to that, I definitely recommend going and listening to that. But our follicle ruptures to release the egg, which is then swept up and travels down the fallopian tube into the uterus to wait for potential sperm. If no sperm is present and or fertilization does not occur, the egg dissolves. So the ruptured follicle creates this temporary endocrine gland called the corpus luteum, from which we produce progesterone in the luteal phase. So progesterone is created from the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum is created from ovulation. So when we're talking about progesterone in this episode and in general, we're talking about that specific hormone made from the corpus luteum. Now, a lot of people will think of progestins, which are synthetic progesterones that are in like birth control, for example, hormonal birth control, or non-bioidentical hormone replacement. And progestins is a group for a couple of different synthetic progestins, but again, the group is called progestins, and it is not the same at all as our endogenous meaning made in our body, progesterone, and does not encompass the same health benefits of our own natural, bioidentical, endogenous, these are all terms for the same thing, progesterone, like literally at all. So progestins do not equal progesterone. And I just want to make sure that's really known, and we'll get into that a little bit more in the next few minutes, because a lot of times progestins and progesterone are grouped together, and there has been this negative association with progesterone by many people because of this misunderstanding. Actually, let's just get into this right now. Let's talk about progesterone versus progestins. So Dr. Laura Briden is a magnificent naturopathic doctor, and she's actually been on the Peace Love Hormones podcast before. We talked about the pros and cons to the hormonal IUD. We released that in the fall of 2022. So I'm not sure off the top of my head what episode number that was, probably in like the 40s or 50s range. So I highly recommend going and listening to that. She's amazing. And we talked for a little bit over an hour about the nuances to the hormonal and the copper IUDs. So she actually wrote a little chart breakdown on her website, which has magnificent research articles if you ever want to head over there, of the main differences between progesterone, our endogenously made progesterone, and progestins. So I think it's fabulous, and it's a nice, easy, digestible breakdown. So I'm going to read it right now. So she writes, progesterone, again, progesterone made by our body, improves cardiovascular health, while progestins can cause high blood pressure. Progesterone stimulates hair growth, while progestins can cause hair loss. Progesterone has anti-androgen properties, while progestins can be androgenic or testosterone-like. Progesterone is generally great for mood and sleep, while progestins can cause anxiety and depression. Progesterone may reduce the risk of breast cancer, while progestins increase the risk of breast cancer. And then she goes on to say, still confused? Think of it this way. Progestins and progesterone have the same beneficial thinning effect on the uterine lining, but opposite effects in almost every other part of the body, including the breast and the brain. In general, real progesterone has the advantage of being safer for breast and usually better for mood. So, many women are put on hormonal birth control or hormone replacement therapy containing progestins to have that effect of thinning the uterine lining if their estrogen is particularly high and they and or they suffer with endometriosis. They have a lot of estrogen. There's a lot of thickening of the uterine lining, and therefore a lot of inflammation and cramping, etc. Fibroid, cyst, like you name it, with higher estrogen. But again, the fix is not to prescribe and to take the synthetic progesterone known as progestins. It's to support our body's ovulation and therefore support our body's natural hormone production across the board, but especially with progesterone. So, well, estrogen has her moment all across, all different aspects. In research, she has her shining moment. Even just on social media, I feel like estrogen is talked about a lot, and it's boasted for being this wonderful, the woman's hormone, right? That's how we kind of think about it, estrogen for women, testosterone for men. And this is just not the case. I mean, progesterone has such a vital role as well and acts like a little teammate with estrogen. So estrogen is not the only one who deserves recognition, as progesterone is the main hormone of the second half of our cycle, particularly the luteal phase. And if you're listening to this and you're going, I've actually never really heard about progesterone. Maybe you've heard about it, but you haven't really been properly educated on all of the benefits of progesterone, or heck, maybe you're on the opposite end and you're like, I've heard about progesterone, but it has not been positive. I can explain why perhaps this is. So you see, science has greatly misunderstood progesterone, which big whoop, right? It's greatly misunderstood progesterone and the health benefits that progesterone has. And this is because of a few reasons. Number one, estrogen as the hormone was actually discovered first, which is why progesterone often misses the dichotomy of estrogen being for women and testosterone being for men, which again, we know that even women produce testosterone to much, much lesser amounts than men, and it's really concentrated around ovulation. But anyway, not to digress, but this is why progesterone kind of missed that notion, that dichotomy. Secondly, before oral micronized progesterone was created, progesterone was not digestible orally, so therefore it was not made into a medication like estrogen was. We're able to make estrogen into medication. And as we know, if something cannot be made profitable by the Western medical businesses, then it doesn't get as much spotlight or money and funding and research as other things, in this case, estrogen does. So this meant that estrogen got the spotlight, touting all of its benefits and promoting estrogen medications, although we now know that synthetic estrogen too, similarly to synthetic progesterones, does not have the same benefits at all of our beautiful, lovely, endogenously made estrogen. And since progesterone at the time, now it's different, we do have the oral micronized progesterone. But going back a little bit, because it couldn't be made into a medication at first, the synthetic progestins were created, and the negative side effects of progestins often get tagged onto the real progesterone, like I mentioned before, making people weary of the hormone. So I usually find 2, maximum 3 groups of people. Usually the first group are I don't really know anything about progesterone, which is mind-blowing to me because, again, it's one of our crucial main hormones. If we had 2 hormones that were the most important, for women, it would be estrogen and progesterone. And then there's group number 2, which is I've heard about progesterone, but I'm scared of it. I feel like I hear all of these negative things about progesterone, which usually you're hearing the negative things about progestins, the synthetic progesterone. And then a third group, which is usually much smaller, are just the group who are like me and know about progesterone and all of its benefits and are not scared of progesterone, and actually really focus and prioritizing on producing more progesterone. And you can't make too much of it. So we're really trying to focus on making more progesterone, extending our luteal phase, and just having an overall healthy cycle and endocrine system, reproductive system as a whole. So the reality is estrogen and progesterone are this powerful duo. They're both essential. The pre-ovulatory surge of estrogen in the follicular phase is crucial for ovulation and therefore progesterone production. Additionally, estrogen actually supports progesterone receptors in tissues all over the body. So again, they're working together. And conversely, progesterone acts as a counterbalance to estrogen throughout the body. So estrogen is commonly thought of as like the growth hormone, right? And progesterone really helps to level that out. And in other ways, in the uterus, progesterone thins the uterine lining while estrogen thickens it. In the brain, progesterone has this calming effect while estrogen has a very stimulating effect. And within the breast, progesterone slows down cell division, contrasting with estrogen, which promotes cell division. So progesterone slows it down, estrogen creates it. So it's really beautiful and important to have the balance and the dance of the two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, throughout the menstrual cycle. Another of the many reasons why ovulation is so important in the entire ovulatory and menstrual cycle. Together, estrogen and progesterone promote the long-term health of the brain, the bones, and the cardiovascular system. Together, they make us feel amazing in both the short term and in the long term by preventing osteoporosis and fracture, heart attacks, breast and endometrial cancers later in life as well. So now that we've discussed what progesterone is and we have clarity around that and why it's important, let's talk about how to make it. So we must ovulate in order to make progesterone because we have to ovulate and we need that follicle to rupture in order to create the corpus luteum from which we produce progesterone. So the first action, the most important action, is to do everything that we can to support and promote healthy, regular ovulation. So how do we do this? Well, we go back to the foundations of overall health, which I probably sound like a broken record to you all at this point. For anyone who's been listening to my work or following my work, whether it's on social media, on YouTube, podcast, you're on the Peace Love Hormones website, reading the articles, I'm going to sound like a little bit of a broken record, but I truly believe that there is no such thing as talking too much about the foundations of overall health. So let's get into nutrition first. Nutrition can really make or break our health. Food is either medicine or it's what makes us sick. So I wrote a few things down that I wanted to share with you all. Again, I have really in-depth topics on each of these. Like I have podcast episodes dedicated to each of these, so I don't want to get too into the science of each of these, but quick overview: nutrition, eliminating foods that you may be sensitive to, such as dairy and gluten. Also, eating vitamin C rich foods and supplementing as needed has been shown to promote healthy progesterone levels. Also, eating enough nutrient dense foods is crucial to allowing your body to feel safe enough to resume reproductive functioning. So no restricting, and especially for those who are struggling with eating disorders, number one, I'm here for you. I'm sending you lots of love. I suffered with anorexia for much of my younger life, so I can relate on a very deep level. I did not have a menstrual cycle when I was sick with an eating disorder, so I highly encourage you to go seek out help and to really prioritizing. It doesn't happen overnight, but prioritizing eating more food and choosing super nutrient dense foods to let your body know that it's safe and your nervous system know that it's safe to resume all functioning, but especially reproductive functioning. And then overall, aiming to eat very nutrient dense foods to support your brain health, your follicle health, and your ovarian health. You need to be doing some digging into, are you eating enough foods to provide for zinc and iodine and vitamin C and your B vitamins, etc. And where do you need to supplement if needed? Next would be reducing inflammation by addressing histamine issues, leaky gut, and or insulin resistance. 3 would be stress management and a spiritual or mindful practice. The 4th one would be prioritizing sleep. Very important. If you need sleep help, my organic herbal tincture Sleepy will help you with this. 5, herbal remedies such as my Soothe herbal tincture to promote ovulation and overall regulate hormones, regulate the menstrual cycle, and promote overall fertility and reproductive health. Next, 6 would be quality water and hydration. It's very important to drink mineralized water. So I love spring water. Mountain Valley comes in glass, which is beautiful. You can also drink reverse osmosis water, which is highly filtered, and then just add minerals back into it. And it's also important to not overdrink our water because we don't want to flush out and dilute our digestive enzymes, especially before, during, or right after meals, right? Because we want our digestive enzymes to be working so we can digest our food and extract and assimilate those nutrients to be able to go to the cells of each of the organs that need those nutrients. So liver, gut, thyroid, brain, etc. And also to support digestion, I want to mention my organic herbal bitters to stimulate digestive juices such as bile before meals. You take it about 10 minutes before meals and it helps you to digest your food. And then also making sure that you're not drinking tap water, because tap water is full of pharmaceutical waste and pesticide runoff and heavy metals and other junk that impacts your thyroid. It impacts your brain and your neurological cognitive function. It impacts your ovarian health, your adrenal health, and it will impact how you ovulate, when you ovulate, how healthy ovulation is, and how regular it is. Lastly, want to say it does take on average about 3 to 6 months to reap the full benefits of whatever protocol you're doing. So whatever health goals you are trying to achieve and however you're trying to achieve them, whether you're focusing solely on nutrition or herbal medicine or supplementation or getting more nature time or stress management or sleep, you get my drift. Preferably you're working on all of those things, but to really give yourself 3 to 6 months to reap the full benefits. After all, it does take 100 days for follicles to mature for ovulation. So at the very least, give yourself 3 months with that new herbal protocol or herbal supplement or nutritional protocol to really reap the full benefits. Not to say that you won't feel better as time goes on before that 3 months or that 6 months. You most likely will, especially when we're talking about herbal medicine and nutrition and even just sleeping better and prioritizing sleep and having a lovely sleep routine, which if you need help and education around that, I have a whole podcast episode about how to optimize your sleep health. You're going to start feeling great like almost immediately. But again, to reap the full benefits, especially on that deep cellular and ovum follicle level, you really need that 3 to 6 months. So don't lose hope. Please don't lose hope. Just know and remind yourself that you are on the right path. Thank you so much with all of my heart for tuning in to today's episode. Show notes, discount codes, and more can be found in the description of this episode. So whether you're on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or on Apple, you can find all necessary information as well as timestamps for this episode in the description. And if you found this episode helpful, please do share it with your community and your loved ones and to spread the good word and the education, because education is empowering. Until next time, peace, love, hormones. Mwah.